Asasia, sa ye be defang wujumedi was in 13,000 acres. And as I saw the hectares and so a 5,000 hectares. Watch there sika wuhiane enyama hodwa wo beye. Ade ba ko a eka me kuma pa ne se dwumadi ne koso a eye hub inti dwumadi anketenketen pin so be piem ebi ye akwan a wo beyi di akohonum wo besisi hospitals wo beyi schools any dwumadi afofra eno so ebema impuntu aba oman ni mo
o se adwene ekwan ye befa so a ye benya ye energy security yen Africa ye ofa ngoni bebre na mum bebre tu a ye nane no ye refine ne akoton ne sa ne asa akwa akotobi nti breadru a o se ye nane ye fa ngono wa ha na yensu enya bi se de be ya yensonso ye betumi enya fa ngo na asembisi ba bi a yen ye wo ye fa ngo a ye be yusu nti sa petroleum ho dwumadi e betimi aboa pa na mum ne man ketenketi bi a wo ho ane wo se ehwe se yaye na krona ye petroleum ho no mrantie ne maba wa na wo ho no so yahwe adwuma mo beye na bibia akoso na chese nya win-win situation.
I would like to thank you for accepting our invitation and making the time to be here. We appreciate the enormous responsibilities that you have, especially around this time when the geopolitical situation is creating concerns for energy. Those in the energy sector would be engaged in a lot of education and a lot of explanation. So we appreciate your coming. We at the PHDC hold the view that no major national infrastructure project can succeed without public trust, transparency, and continuous engagement with the people it is meant to serve. As such, your presence is something we take very seriously. As a leader with over 2 decades of experience in the extractive sector of our country, one lesson stands out clearly. Projects do not fail because of engineering and financing alone. They fail when communities are not heard, when stakeholders are excluded, when social and environmental concerns are treated as secondary issues, and when policy decisions are not in sync with the central pillars of development. This is my natural field, so I'm speaking from the experience that I've gathered over the years. And this is why today's engagement is not a mere formality. Rather, it is a deliberate step by PHDC to build a culture of openness and co-creation around the Petroleum Hub Development Project. The Petroleum Hub Project is one of the most ambitious industrial undertaking in Ghana's recent history. I always say that the project is ambitious, audacious, and sometimes people think it is undoable. I think it is doable. I know that most countries, Ghana in particular, we are afraid of big projects. Anytime you mention a big project, we cringe. Can we do it? How much money do we have to do this? People will not even spend time to understand the mechanism of it. I'm sure Kwame Nkrumah faced the same problem when he came up with the idea of Akosombo Dam. It was unheard of. It was a big project for a country small like Ghana. At that time, their population was 7 million. And so a lot of people kicked against it. Now, Akosombo project is a baby project, if you like. So this is how big projects serve us and sometimes later on become baby project. The Inga project of Congo, I think is a dam project, will be the largest dam in Africa. It's going to cost about $110 billion. Nobody's kicking against it. They think it's very doable. They think you can always find the money for it. So our project, even though it's ambitious, it is audacious, I insist that it is doable. And I know those who think along with me also think it is doable. Ghana's at its core is a design to position this country as an energy security corridor, achieve petroleum price stability for citizens through our key infrastructure such as refineries, storage tanks, petrochemical plants, and port infrastructure development at an enclave in Jomoro, in the western region of Ghana. For those of us who are not familiar with Jomoro, Jomoro is not too far away from where Ghana Gas is. It is not in the same place. That area is called Elembele, but Jomoro is just adjacent. They are sister constituencies or sister area with the same people living in those enclaves. So that is where our project is earmarked to occur. Ultimately, the hub will create jobs for Ghanaians, attract investment, and expand our industrial base as a country. We have spoken about a projected employment of about 780,000 if everything comes into account. I am not worried about the figure because when I visited, and I say it to those of you who have followed me, you know I repeat this. When I visited Johor recently, they had done their phase 1. And the phase 1, we were told that they employed about 80,000 or 82,000 people for the phase 1. They actually had to bring people from Philippines to also support them. So we are very certain that this is really an opportunity for job creation for the teeming youth of our country. But ambition alone is not enough. Now herein lies the real question. How do we build a petroleum hub that is economically viable, socially inclusive, environmentally sustainable, and beneficial to us and the future generation? And this is where you come in as CSOs. Civil society organizations play a central role in national development. You operate between the fine margins of policy and the people. You amplify community voices, interrogate public projects, and ensure that development is not just about macroeconomic figures, but about real human outcomes, protecting livelihoods and fairness. In view of this, we have 2 clear objectives for this stakeholder engagement today. First, to improve the understanding of the Petroleum Hub project and PHDC's mandate, what we are doing, why we exist, how the project is structured, and how it benefits the ordinary people. Second, we want to listen carefully to your feedback, concerns, questions, and your recommendations so that they can inform how this project is planned and implemented going forward. Let me hasten to add that PHDC does not see CSOs as critics. Instead, we view you as partners in accountability and sustainable development. We recognize the legitimate concerns around land use, environmental protection, community livelihood, transparency in governance, and long-term socioeconomic impact. Indeed, these are not peripheral issues. They are central to the success of the Petroleum Hub, and to take such feedback is very important to us. The oil and gas industry the world over is undergoing tremendous transformation. Investors, governments, communities now demand higher standards of environmental, social, and governance performance, what we broadly refer to as ESG. With your collaboration, PHDC is committed to aligning its operations with these global standards. This means rigorous environmental and social impact assessment, community engagement beyond compensation, local content and job creation, gender inclusion, and transparent governance process. We are building not just an infrastructure project, but a governance model for how strategic assets with transformative economic potential should be developed in this 21st century. Ladies and gentlemen, trust is not built through exclusion. It is built through inclusion and participatory dialogue. It is built by showing up as we are doing today, listening, adjusting, and sometimes admitting where we must do better. Today marks the beginning of a more structured working relationship with between PHDC and civil society. not a one-off meeting, but an ongoing engagement that will continue beyond this session. Ladies and gentlemen, we may not agree on everything. That is natural. But we share a common goal that this project must serve Ghanaians and the economy of Ghana in the long term. In view of this, I encourage you to speak freely today. And then for CSOs, I don't need to encourage them to speak freely today. It is in their DNA to speak freely. So it is some of us that sometimes cannot speak freely. So we are encouraging ourselves to speak freely. But I know CSOs, you can gag. Even our board member from a CSO, he doesn't sit there as a board member. Sometimes he becomes a CSO on the board. So I won't mention his name. But I know I have to be careful because my contract has not been signed yet. Your insight will help shape not just the project, but the institutional culture of PHDC itself. So, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the board, management, and staff of PHDC, I thank you once again for your participation, and I look forward to a frank, constructive, and forward-looking discussions. Thank you very much. Project spans, from the history that I've read, spans, I think, across 3 presidents. We have a hint of President Mills having had some conversation with some people to build fertilizer plants, tanks, and refineries. I don't think that was a hub, but that was the beginning of the thinking that we needed to add value to our product. This was supposed to be in Takoradi. Under the previous regime, I think the whole concept was crystallized, and an area was earmarked for the development. Now, His Excellency, the President of this country, has said that any project that was started by his predecessors, and if they found them to be very good, he would continue. So this is one of the projects that the President is committed to and would want to ensure that the benefit of it gets to the citizens of Ghana. And of course, we've been talking about 24-hour economy. And for me, I'm selfish, kakra, but there's no project better for the 24-hour economy than the Petroleum Hub Development Project when it's on stream. PHDC is a product of an Act of Parliament. So it's a legal entity that has been set up by the Act of Parliament. I think 1053 set us up with specific responsibilities, specific responsibility to facilitate and promote the development of the hub. So we are not to build, we are facilitating and promoting the development of the hub. So people must also bear in mind that it's not costing government money to build per se. If you look at I'll be very, very brief because these are information that's always available. If you look at the demand for petroleum and petroleum products, you see Africa alone, I just want to be brief, Africa alone, we have about 85% of our consumption coming from outside Africa, 85% of our consumption, and the consumption requirement keeps growing, as you can see from the figures shown on the board. Again, if you look at the demand for clean petroleum products, the graphical presentation of where they come from. Now, globally, there are concerns about the use of fossil. I mean, some people keep asking, why are you dealing with fossil when people are talking against the use of fossil? We agree, government agrees, Africa agrees that we should transition, but we also believe that we have to transition justly. There must be a just transition. We have the resources. The resources didn't come up only 10 years or so ago. they were there, we couldn't access it, or we didn't know how to access it. Now we have the means to access it. Do we leave it? Do you leave those resources beneath the belly of the earth? Probably not. And is it the case that fossil fuel is completely out of call? Probably not. And I don't want to quote some man who said, drill, baby, drill. I don't want to call him. And now investment in that area is going up. And the idea is that you can use this to also move into cleaner energy system. So we think that Africa has a potential to use its fossil fuels as a means of transitioning into the cleaner energy. I mean, our challenges will be access to finance, access to technology, and all that. So it means that Africa must look for their own finances, they must be creative with finances, and then with technology and all that. Because technology for for fossil fuel assessment is becoming meaner. So the creation of the African Energy Bank is an effort by Africa to create financing models to support the development of our general fossil fuel systems, and then transitioning into cleaner and greener energy system. I believe that our concern must more be on Ghana than on Africa generally. But suffice it to say that Africa's domestic energy consumption keeps growing. We need to create a domestic market for abundant petroleum resources that we have. These days, almost every country has found some crude somewhere. The long-term sustainability of the oil and gas industry in Africa rests on the creation of an African market, which we do have, and as I've indicated, 85% of our consumption comes from outside. We go to Europe, Southeast Asia, and all those places for that. And of course, what is happening in that region is also a message to us that we probably have to be a bit more self-reliant. Now, let's look at the petroleum hub itself, the key infrastructure that is required. As has already been indicated, we are required to build 3 refineries, some petrochemical plants, about 5 of them. We are also required to do tank farms or encourage the establishment of tank farms, storage tanks. And I believe storage tanks hold a good future for Ghana, especially as it can feed the sub-region, particularly the Sahel region, the landlocked region. And so last night, one of our investors called and said they are ready to come and start with the tank farm construction because of what is happening. I'm sure they are being awoken to the fact that storage is quite important and it's quite key to us in the petroleum hub project. So these are the infrastructure projects that we are required to undertake. In addition to the infrastructure project that we're supposed to build, we are also, we have ancillary infrastructure that needs to be built to support the major ones that are being created. Some of those activities are LNG terminals, power plants, and so on and so forth. Other services include fabrication, workshop, metering and calibration services, equipment supplies. All these things are ancillary activities that would go on the hub. In fact, it is a hub, so all these things would link very well on it. Yesterday, 3 days ago, I had a chat with one of the foremost people in the area of energy, and he made a good suggestion that, look, a hub can accommodate other activities, not only energy or oil and gas. For instance, if the mining industry, if somebody wants to do bauxite refinery at the hub, that's also possible. So it would create room for other activities that may not directly relate to energy. Now,
Sorry.
The elephant in the room, I always say, sorry, is the land. I know that land has been a major issue. Some have debated that, oh, they don't have land, they have land, the land is big, the land is small. Let me just put this to bed permanently. Initially, land that was identified and was agreed upon by major stakeholders was a 20,000 acre land, 20,000 acre land. There were some issues, some concerns raised, and so the president said that he asked us whether we could do it. He used hectares, 5,000 hectares to do this, so that we can also appease those who have shown concerns about the size of the land. We said yes, this project can go on a 5,000 hectare, which is about 13,000 acres. So now the land we are working on is, or we are supposed to acquire and work on, is 13,000 acres, not 20,000 acres. Again, there were people who were misusing the units. Oh, 20,000 hectares. You know, hectares is twice acres. I mean, hectares, you know, it's almost double the size of acres. So if anybody told you these guys are taking the land 20,000 hectares, it was very worrying. But now it is clear it is 13,000 acres or 5,000 hectares. Yes. So this, I mean, having spoken about those hectares and the land size and all that, the project has been divided into lots. We used to call it phases, but we thought it was anomalous to call the project phases when the phases are not sequential. It is not like you should finish phase 1 before you go to phase 2. You can do all at the same time, or you can start phase 3 before phase 1 or something. So we are using what the planners call, what the special experts call lots. So lot 1, lot 2, lot 3. So these are the requirements for those lots. The lot 1 will require the building of one refinery. Now, the maximum capacity for the one refinery is 300,000 BPD. You know, so that is the capacity. We were very insistent at the beginning. That's what the minor tinkering with the project. We were very insistent on 300,000, but now with our reviews, we are talking about scale. So you can scale the project at 300,000 barrel capacity, maybe from 150 or 200, and you can scale it up to 300,000. It's not like you have to start 300,000 at all. So that's one of the key changes. And then we need to develop jetties and port infrastructure, and that will be part of the lot 1 activities and some other ancillary infrastructure. Let me talk about the jetty and port infrastructure. The Jomoro land, the land that we have at Jomoro, presents a very major natural advantage. I think in this country, that is where we are the deepest of sea shore. We have between 18 and 23 or so. That is Tema and Tafali is about 15, if I'm correct, meters depth at the shore. So you have to dredge it. This one, you don't need dredging, or even if you need that, the minor dredging, which means that the port over there can handle vessels of any size. Very vessel of any size can be handled there. So if for nothing at all, the development of that port infrastructure will ease the congestion of our 2 major ports, or be an addition to that. So that's it. And then the lot 2, again, refinery, 2 petrochemical plants, and then tank farms, LNG onshore infrastructure, and of course, any other infrastructure that will be added onto the port. Of course, the lot 3 would also be the same, except that it would just be additional refinery, 2 petrochemical So these are the things that are supposed to be there as major infrastructure. Now, let me also talk quickly about the feedstock issue, because I know that people have been talking about, by Ghana, we are producing less than 80,000 barrels a day. How can you do 300,000? But you see, we are talking about business case of establishing an industry. When we were in secondary school, we did location of industry, and they do nearness to market, nearness to raw material, those things our teachers taught us, and so on. So I usually talk about Switzerland and Belgium. Switzerland and Belgium, they don't have cocoa, but our top chocolate manufacturing plants are in Switzerland and Belgium. So it means that they have calculated the benefit of buying the chocolate the cocoa beans from somewhere, and then using that as feedstock for production. If you look at, and I know these are arguable points, but if you look at Rotterdam and even Singapore has probably the third largest petroleum hub in the world. I mean, they have to source feedstock from outside. They don't produce that themselves. So you don't need to necessarily have your feedstuff. It's a matter of calculation. And this will show up in the raft of incentives that the project offers. And so you can calculate and see if these incentives are there. Is it right, is it economical for me to go to Azerbaijan and bring feedstock? Is it economical for me to go to Namibia to bring feedstock? Especially given that AFTA is there. And so if you are working within the AFTA framework, you don't need to do customs payment, and so it's easier, or at least minimal of that. So do you calculate that? I mean, since we had our thermal oil refinery, we haven't used our own feedstock. If we have, maybe, I don't know, it must have been a trial, but otherwise, we use feedstock from somewhere. So those who are in that business, if a private sector decides that it is going to do it, it must show that it has a source of feedstock that will feed it. So just a kind of clarification. I thought we would talk about the benefits. Yes. Okay. So these are the incentives that the law allows for operating at the hub. So you can see that you have 100% tax exemption on duties and levies when you start. You have corporate tax, you pay after you have set up your infrastructure. You have 10 years to recoup, and then you come to 15% tax, which is much better than even me setting up my company and then government taxing me 25% corporate tax. And then, of course, there are no restrictions to the repatriation of your profits, and all the incentives that are there. There are assurances. There's also monetary assurance, demonstrate government commitment, provision of services on the land. These are all going to be done. But of course, you have to buy the land. It will not be for free. And of course, there are some constitutional guarantees. There are multilateral guarantees on your investment. So it's safe to invest over there. Sorry. Now, why is Ghana the best place to do this hub? The other time, there was a guy from Uganda, an energy expert from Uganda, and there was a question of Ghana and Nigeria and Dangote. The way the guy answered the questions, I thought he was even he was married to a Ghanaian. He actually gave us the reasons why Dangote and Ghana's petroleum hub can coexist without a problem. People are likely to come to Ghana because there's low political risk. Obviously, Nigeria is coming up, but we are still ahead of them when it comes to political stability and the risk, so to speak. You have the access to market is practically Ghana's location, and the fact that there's a vast market for petroleum and petroleum products. I And the fact also that we do have relatively skilled workers. I do not compare ourselves to Nigeria in terms of skills in the area of energy and oil and gas, but we have been involved in mining and other natural resource activities for some time, and it wouldn't be a problem for us to provide the requisite skills for the project. So we have already undertaken a lot of stakeholder engagement. This has been long coming, but we already had some interactions. We've met with the chief and the youth of the Western Nzima. We have also engaged with the Regional House of Chiefs in Takwari. We have had some community interactions generally. So these are to sensitize those people we engage with about the petroleum hub and address any concerns that they have. We've also had engagement with the Parliamentary Select Committee on energy, very intensive engagement. We have also engaged with our sister organizations. It's very, very important because a petroleum hub cannot stand alone. There must be deep interaction with entities like TOR, GMPC, BOSS, and all that. And we have done that and we continue to do that. So we need to share things that are common and how we can synergize and do the project together. Generally, we have signed pure agreement with the anchor developer. In fact, the start date has expired because of change of government and the fact that we needed to realign one or two issues. The PHDC has had discussions with them and agreed on new milestones, new dates, which we are going to sign, I think, in the next few weeks or so. So we have a concrete, I think two of them, one for fertilizer production and one for the lot one. One is for fertilizer production and one is for the lot one development. We have signed MOUs with many other companies. I'm always saying that MOUs are interesting papers, but the real deal is doing it. It's not just signing the MOUs, but if it's for MOUs, we have done a few in terms of numbers. We have created a portal that is actually inviting Ghanaians who are interested to participate in this project by way of providing skills services to the project. So the information up here indicates the number of people who have sent their names and their CVs onto our portal. We have a comprehensive training program aligned, but we have to wait. I always tell my deputy CEO, who is very keen to go on to the training, I always tell them, look, one of the things that you have to be careful with is if you train people and you keep them there, you don't give them any job. If you're not careful, they become an enemy because you have trained them and they're sitting down. So we need to align it with the progress of the job, of the project. So in terms of sustainability, it's very important for us. We have indicated that sustainability is key. We intend, in fact, we are working with EPA. We've done the first some work on the wetlands around the area to see where we can work with the Tourism Institute or Ghana Tourism Authority to try and turn some of the places into tourism infrastructure for the people and for Ghana. Sorry. I think basically that's what it is. I think we need rather to give people time to ask questions, to seek clarification, and then okay, send you in no aban esi so edua say yen ye fe no petroleum hub. Na petroleum hub no kire say Ghana for yen kasa ntumi nya ba bi a ye betwe fangu mu na yetumi kura di bia ye saa ne onoma pii a fam go mfa so etumi eye bibi ti se watare a wo hye wo be he na fam go ho asem wo pen ntare nylon num ni noma enku bi a amanfo use ni ade nyina no yade a etumi yankse etumi twe fam go mu a etumi yema ne yenti I say dwomro tinya enim dwomro e wo western region na ho na ban yi se yentumi na yanbo ekura ho na enclave se na friend enclave na amanfo private sector investors omonfo musika enhyem enye saa edwuma ya makekeke PHDC a medano no yen ye de yen say ye di ntam esiesie ma amanfo tumdi musika ba enya ban ankasanks na odin sika ya be hyem so obesi refinery anaso obesi tank farms na mum ono no wo hwe osiesie se ma ye baabi masiesie no kama mese mumbra na mumbaye musade na fa so ba ye so ebi aba oman mu ani internet da wura e boy ne se saa ne o me wo ho CSOs omo a eku a omo nka aban nsem ho bia na omo so omo akwadre wo eye petrol ni energy nsensem num no omo ene yendi nsa wo so na bibia omo ntiase no omo yenkyekiremu yese akoma no ane nkyiremu yenkyiremu je na so omo so waje nkyire bia on beboa ma petroleum hub dumadwe na akonanim a omo so edi aba ti ene de eye nkutahudie pa na ebedi ye na wa hu se bibia akọ fine omo bisa questions a ebi edin question ebi mu odin but binim so wa ya adwen kyerɛkyerɛ kyerɛ sɛ fa so a ebema petroleum hub dumadwe na akonanim
doc uka bibi se se hwɛ ebibi ma mu nyina 85% of petroleum normal ye use nyina efi amono ne wo hwɛ ne ekoso o mede isi ne so a enwo be hia se sisi ano anamuntu a ye pese YouTube no e be kekan ho ana
in fact eno boy kokopa say Africa amam nyina Africa ha nyina no ye petroleum and petroleum hub ye petroleum product ye consume no ni nyina e fafi amano ne yen so na nsin de nyame aye adom ye tu fam go kwa na me biom tu bi Nigeria for the pucha Angola tu ni nyina so no ye nya enough for consumption and inti ye ko ananso ye tu na de akọ Amsterdam Rotterdam na omakotwim na om de abre ne ato na boden ti se dey time ye complain say ye gold kura ye tu a de ko no makwa no mpetia fine na om de aba na ne ato na boden sa na tie enti ene ayi entoko ye asi wo sa Middle East ho no boy in Kenya say yen hwe ne yen siesie ye ho sa adwen pay a aban afasa wo ye no ye de da ho so eso na ese betra ho sa bedru ba bi na ntokwa bi si na me nka se ntokwa nsi na afi yenye fangu ni bi because ya block ukọ ayi de exi wo Iran na o ma block ba bi a ship krafa aha enti sesi ayi bo petrol bo a ye de ton $83 dollars per barrel wo enti chese ne bo ayeden wo ho no se yen ye wo bi wo ho ne ye wo storage tanks ya store bi wo ha ne ade a anka aba ne sei enso ye ton no aboden ya sai sezi ya no ma bo ade na wo bi wo ho a no akoton wanya ho fa so ana so po wo de na wo bekra no wo nkra enfia ma no ne mba wo fa wo wa ukrom ha ya nti emma eno ma bo enye de ti ade nde ehu hia pa na sai uza maim no aya ne ma kese bi wa na abo ehu kakra nti ezo na de we de so na aban benye sika wo na de aye anya aban na di ne sika poti eye aban ne dwumadi odi no ho no se obeji asase no de ama ni kuwa na wate petroleum hub no na yenso ya hwe se wo mo ye adwuma no be ni ye pepepe ye siesie asase no de ama wo na yenso nya ho mfaso eno so beba aban beba oman ni mu a na ya create jobs ye di kan aka se adwuma de se koni ye pa de ebi beba pa ewo petroleum hub no nti sa wo so no eye nkyerkyeremu a ya kyeremu ma amanfo nso bi some question no mo de o ma dwen kyerɛ so abraye project no ehun krata de ya ep na ye ne investors wo mo asabi wo de o musika ebam no so no ye ne fa kasapa in fa ba ku bi kra de ne na kɔ agreement in Qatar so I just say ye ready o tu na se na waba be nti ye tu ho anamo nia aban ye sesi a ene se o hwe no wage asase no e dia man so hwe aban kro na ekoye no eduru ba bi no mo ebe ka se ya gi asase na wie na ya ka se foreign minister and finance minister o metua compensation ma eyi sa asem na anko nanim ya kaye nso anko nanim nti ama akoye se afei na ya di sika no eko na aban ye ho adwuma a be ma ensa aka sa sika no
ukutani say crave ba na me mic na body man nko
and me dey man no ya
okay
you finish and so take video I be my
already and the meeting who here pa because brofuni ya can say energy security a problem yen nyina nim say Middle East hona oil kese ni free ba no hon sensem no enya de a ebe twane because security in the area is very volatile. Yenim say Sabia kase ekura ewo oil reserve kase pa ye Venezuela ye hu niam e cost wo US nsensem ho. Nti Ghana any Africa no ye hia oil fango no ye hia chen bibia eno na ye di egu wiem hyen mu airplane betu e fango car betu a e fango ye kwakofa aduane aba e fango eniema bi break companies ni industry even fango nimpo ye di bi e produce enyina monkane nti se fango ni ho oil ni ho a ye bibia ye bia to betwa imagine say asori dako ye se petrol ba kokura ni Ghana diesel ni Ghana car ben na be move wa okuta car obede wotimi move wa okofa car obede wotimi move nti ebe ma oman no bibia agina nti o se adwene ekwan ye befa so a ye benya ye energy security ani say ekwan ye befa so a fango be wo man mu time a eye Middle East insensem si wo Iran ni ade ye hu say aban de betu dwa so oh ye wo be na wotwe fango na se na wotwe fango ne ewo na e kate fango yi na wotwe betwemu a na yini fango bia na che say after 1 week or so no he fa ne ekofe fango nanso yen Africa ye fango ni bebre na mum bebre tu a ye nane no ye refine ne akoton ni sa ne asa akwa akotobi nti breadru a o se ye nane ye fango no wa ha na yensu enya bi se de be ya yenso so ye betumi enya fango na asembisi ba bi a yen ye wo ye fango a ye be yusu he say kuro bi a wotu fango a otimi nane wo ho no o wo percentage bi a oja o man nim odi kan hwe o man no ehia a ohia no no de sa fango no eto ho ansa na obeton de aka waton de aka sa brent okwesi nkro no mututu fango na omonane wo ho no omo inform ho because ono o bibiri what I say any of reserves no nti ehu hia pa say ye sase adwene ho nti sa petroleum ho dwumadi e betimi aboa pa na emom ne man ketenkete bi e wo ho ane wo say ehwe say yaye na kro na ye petroleum ho no mrante ne maba wa na wo ho no so ya hwe adwuma mo beye na bibia akoso na chese nya win-win situation sa pepe nete your friend me Kojo Cheyamwa me executive director Ewo Help Foundation Africa. Good. I fine. Na brofo ne ba mpese me ka brofo ne hye na so na brofo ne ba no pa menum team ntia wo
Medende Ambassador Francis Ofusukobia na organization amfimba ye Green Care Africa nya ye ne se ye kyerɛkyerɛ omanfo school fo kwanya climate change sesi ewia no yen wiase na dane ohyew pi timi ba na se woda wuntimi na ye kwaye ne se ya na ese na saa ne ma weni ye ne ma bia nipa pi nim nti ekɔ school mu ani nkronketo mu kɔ kyerɛkyerɛ afi ye san so kyerɛkyerɛ apomuden ho ensam na afi afuo ye agriculture ho ensam na enadwumadi a ye bedi ye ne se Ghana ye wo petrol na mum ehya asase nim ewo say yetu na okwan be enso ne befa so atu nti oman no ewo institution bi anase ko bi oman nankasa ate a wo hwe say ba bi a yemfa ngono wo Ghana ha no mu no ye benya nipa bi a wo hu nimde ne wo wusika a wo de betu na enen wo frɛ akuakuo ahodo bi a wonim fango ho nsɛm anase energy ho nsɛm sɛ wo mehia any organization a government organization a ehwe say oil na ye wona na sa fango na ye woni betimi etu won wa ba dwumadi no bisa ansem pii na won so wo da dwumadi na kyerɛkyerɛ nsɛm ahodo ba ko am hye nso ne sɛ asase a saa ye bedi fango dwumadi wo so nyina ye 13,000 acres anasa sa wo de ba hectares nso a 5,000 hectares wɔkyerɛ sika wo hia ne nneɛma ahodo a wɔbɛyɛ adeɛ baako a ɛka me koma paa ne sɛ dwumadie ne kɔ so a hub nti dwumadie anketenketen pii nso bepiem ebi yɛ akwan a wɔbɛyi de akɔ hɔnom wɔbɛsisi hospitals wɔbɛyɛ schools ɛne dwumadie afoforo a ɛno nso ɛbɛma mpuntu aba ɔman ne mu nti ebi a na obi wɔ sika wɔ ɔda hɔnom a ɛnyɛ mmiri biara sɛ yɛka investment anaa yɛka investors a ne de adwene akosi wɔn a wɔwɔ abɔnten so sɛ wɔn na wɔn fa wɔ sika mɛboa Ghana nso yɛnim sɛ nipa pii nso wɔ sika na mmom a ɛtɔda wɔn na wɔn ho adi wei yɛ ɔkwan baako a ɛnɛ dwumadi amenya hu sɛ obi wɔ sika bi nso betumi de ne sika abɛhyɛ mu na sɛ ɛba sɛ mfasoɔ ne ba ne nyinaa nkɔ investors no hɔ sika a wɔka sɛ wɔ hia no wɔde ayɛ dwumadie ne nyina at full capacity no ɛyɛ 60 billion USD anasɛ US dollars ɛnyɛ sika ketewa yɛn nyinaa nim sɛ ɛbrɛ yɛkɔpɛ 3 billion po wɔ IMF hɔ sɛne yɛsi brɛ nanso yɛgye de sɛ ankrankro bi wɔ sika sɛ wɔkeka bɔ ma yɛbɛtumi anya sika wei at the full scale a yɛbɛnya ha na ma nnwuma pii da biara ne yɛbɔ dawuro sɛ yɛwɔ maburu pii yɛwɔ wiewie school wɔwɔ street so wɔnya adwuma anyɛ wei yɛ ɔkwan baako ɛbɛtumi afa so a meyɛnya nnwuma ahodoɔ ɛbɛma yɛn maburu ɔmo asuasua ɔmo nsa no adwuma carpenterfoɔ masonfoɔ welders ɛne wɔn a wɔka ho ne nyinaa nya adwuma yɛ nti ɛyɛ ade pa na mesrɛ sɛ obiara ɔwɔ energy ho nimdeɛ anaasɛ ɔwɔ sika bi no ɔno nso bɛtumi de aboa na ma maburu a wɔwɔ ɔmo anim a wɔnya adwuma yɛ no wɔn nso nwanya bi
Africa ɔman mu nyinaa Africa ha nyinaa no yɛn petroleum and petroleum hub a petroleum product a yɛ consume no ne nyinaa yɛfɛfi ama no ne yɛn nso so nansi deɛ nyame ayɛ adom yɛtu fam wɔkɔ Namibia mu tu bi Nigeria for the pucha Angola tu ne nyinaa nso so no yɛnya enough for consumption ɛne nti yɛkɔ ananso yɛtu na yɛde akɔ Amsterdam Rotterdam na ɔmo akɔtwem na ɔmo de abrɛ ne atɔ na aboɔden ti sɛ ne itam bia yɛ complain sɛ yɛ gold kura yɛ tu a yɛde kɔ no makɔ no mpɛtia fine na ɔmo de aba ne atɔ na aboɔden saa na ɛteɛ nti ɛnɛ ɛyi ntɔkɔ yɛ asi wɔ saa Middle East hɔ no ɛbɔ yɛn Kenyan sɛ yɛnhwɛ ne yɛn siesie yɛn ho wɔ saa adwempɛ yi a aban afa sɛ wɔyɛ no yɛde deda ho sɛ ɛso na yɛsɛ yɛbɛtena ho saa bɛduru baabi na ntɔkwa bi si na menka sɛ ntɔkwa nsi na afei yɛnyɛ fango no bio because